Very exciting. Oh, crap.
Good to meet you, Mehdi.
Good to meet you, sir.
I'm going to jail.
So I
This
kind of want to
blasphemy.
start at the basics or the foundation. I want to see.
Can I just check?
Yes.
Are you a fascist?
No.
Okay.
I don't. I describe myself as, I think, just a Christian. I'm
Fair
a
enough.
devout Christian.
Good to hear.
So, I want to start. Like, what is your connection to the Constitution, and why do you love it so much? Like, what makes it so important that Trump would defy something like the Constitution to you personally?
Great questions. My first connection is I'm an American citizen. I naturalized American citizen, took a pledge to this country, to the Constitution. As a previous speaker has said, Constitution's not perfect. A lot of things I don't like about it. I don't like the Second Amendment. There's various amendments. I don't like the way the Senate is set up. I'm sure there's things you don't like about the Constitution. The difference is, I don't think you can just illegally defy the Constitution. I think each and every one of us can just make up whatever we want. Certainly presidents who are elected with an oath, right? Donald Trump took an oath to preserve, protect, defend the Constitution. And now when he's asked on television, isn't it your job to uphold the Constitution? He said on NBC, I don't know, which goes against his oath. And I'm identifying specific amendments where he is violating. He's only 6 months into his presidency, defying the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment. He wants to defy the 22nd Amendment and be president for a third term. This is the problem we have right now. Free speech is under assault. The free press is under assault. Due process is under assault. The right to be in your home and not be invaded by federal agents, the Fourth Amendment, is under assault. So that, for me, is a problem.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start to say I really don't find the Constitution that important. I find it to be like a 300-year-old document. And it was created to defy the country that subjugated your ancestors in India. And then your parents probably moved from India to Britain. And then you move here to tell us that we should listen to a piece of paper that you were never even connected to begin with. So I want to say, like, if I don't care about it, why do you care about it so much?
How do you run a country without any kind of laws or due process? And by the way, you do care about it, because without the First Amendment, you wouldn't be sitting here.
Oh, I agree with the First Amendment, and I think.
So do you agree with Donald Trump's crackdown on the First Amendment? He's imprisoning people for their speech. He's threatening free speech media organizations. He's threatening peaceable assembly. These are all rights under the First Amendment. Why aren't you bothered by that as a conservative who claims to love the First Amendment?
So I don't like the First Amendment. I like free speech.
Okay,
so
the First Amendment is what guarantees free speech. I'm from the UK, by the way.
Speech.
I'm from the UK,
Yeah, and you guys
which
don't
is a
have
democracy.
that.
We don't have the First Amendment.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the things I do like about the Constitution. I wish the UK did have a First Amendment.
So people
I'm a
don't get
journalist.
arrested for praying outside abortion clinics and stuff like that, right?
So you're opposed to people being arrested for speech crimes, I assume.
Well, it depends what it is. If it's like the
Oh,
people.
so you're like one of the previous speakers. You don't.
No.
As long as there's someone who agrees with you, you don't mind the
No,
crackdown.
I support.
Either we consistently support
I
principles
support
or we
free
don't.
speech 100%.
Okay.
I don't think anyone.
So do you think Donald Trump is defying the Constitution by cracking down on the First Amendment?
So I think he's cracking down on free speech, like the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, who was
just released from prison by a judge, saying his First Amendment rights were violated.
And I agree with the judge, and I disagree with Trump deporting them. But I think that's more a matter of free speech and not the Constitution.
I think that's pedantry at this moment. I think you've conceded that he is cracking down on free speech, which is the First Amendment. So he is defying the Constitution. So it's a pleasure to be in agreement with you, sir.
All right, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Thank you very much.
I mean, you know what? I appreciate some that just don't last long, because we don't have to get too deep into where Eugene found himself in a fucking tailspin. I mean,
Yeah.
he cannot make the connection between the First Amendment and the Constitution. Is this ignorance, or is it just willful denial of obvious fact? Like, does he know that that sounds absolutely crazy? Or does he not know that there's a direct connection, that you're talking about the same thing? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, are these people victims in a weird way? Like, do they not know that, or Eugene in particular, when he says that, does he think that the First Amendment is something other than the Constitution, that you could have the First Amendment without a Constitution?
That's a great question. I mean, also, like, he's like, it's a 300-year-old document that the founders created in order to subjugate the Indians in India. He's like, to subjugate your ancestors. It's like his parents are from India. He's not. He's from London. But, like, wrong Indians, bro. That's not why the Constitution is.
Yeah.
fucking
that's
created.
not why it was created. However, I must say that his point about why do you care about it, I think does actually get to the heart of something that divides a lot of ethnic communities, like the militants and the counter establishment, and those who want to assimilate and just be good Americans and find unity with their fellow Americans. In that, he is correct, whether it be dot Indians or feather Indians, that certainly the Constitution was not written with anyone in mind other than landowning white men. However, those who want to experience the idea in the fullness of reality really do attach and associate themselves to these documents, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, that it could speak to them and for them while not created with them in mind. And so there is something to be said for these young whites who are just so willing to throw it out the window when it was literally created for their privilege. And then questioning those who really have been the victims of the Constitution. And the need for all these amendments is because the society that was envisioned was not for them. Being so attached to it as a almost document of faith, because it's not reality. So it's really the faith that this document might one day govern society in its greatest ideal, of which we've never actually seen in fullness of time. So I don't entirely disagree with that point. You know, why not throw this fucking thing out the window and start over? Like, what is the investment that we have in the document itself, especially now when society and government seem to be so willing to dispel with it? Like, are we reaching for these ideals or not? And I would say not.
Are we trying to create a more, well, it's like the thing
Perfect
about like, what is
union?
the right loves the whole, what is a woman thing. But what they're really debating in this is what is a man? Because in the Declaration of Independence, it's like we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Even though, there was a lot of slave owners and eugenicists that signed the Declaration of Independence and later ratified the Constitution. And, the phrase, in order to form a more perfect union, like, progressives or whatever, people that aren't white supremacists that want a diverse society, those words are doing a lot of work. Where like what they meant was that it couldn't stay this way and that it was going to grow and change. And that may not be what they meant. But like if you read the Federalist Papers, which I think are behind me, in a letter, I think it's from Jefferson to Adams, perhaps, and I'm just pulling this off the top of my head, but they talked back and forth how that the Constitution needed to be rewritten, like I think Jefferson said, like every 17 years, because a new generation would be coming forth to govern. And I think the quote was something like, you wouldn't, you likened it like to a coat that doesn't fit anymore. You don't want to straitjacket the next generation with like your grandfather's coat that doesn't fit anymore. You need,
We need to retailer this suit every 17 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. So like these guys, the argument doesn't really work because they're like, the Constitution doesn't, it's an old document, but we, at the same time, we want what the founders intended, and what they wanted was a white society, is what they're saying.
So maybe we need a new constitutional Congress where we can decide if, in fact, a white society is still what this land is intended for. Because, like the needle has moved, and the situation that white men and landowners find themselves in is not the same. Maybe we've run past that 17 pounds about 20 times.
And maybe even the myth that this was a white majority country ever, maybe now, but in the beginning, in the founding, it certainly wasn't. There was a ton of Indians here. There were millions. They got killed by different waves of colonization, from disease to, genocidal, murder and land theft.
Yeah. Okay. But again, if that's not the target of the document at the time, those in charge, those who were able to slaughter at mass those people, were the ones that were creating their own society, and that time has come and gone, right? So,
It
what
might be coming again.
is our attachment to this document? Like, who is still striving to make this a reality in its most highest of ideals? Or are these originalists, right, looking to go back to that reading of it, which is for that certain very specific group of white landowning men, of which I would suggest that probably a lot of the fucking guys sitting in these circles
Are not
are not.
landowners.
They're not
Yeah.
fucking landowners. You know what I mean? There's some women in there. There's some non-whites in there. Like, let's figure out what the Constitution of today, how that might read. Let's put together a Congress for that. This kind of religious dedication to the Constitution, it might actually be arcane. It might be an outdated notion. Like, we just didn't get there. We never made it to the idea being reality.
We're also very young. Like, you're in London right now. When
I
you
quit.
go to, huh? What's
I
that?
quit. I
Oh, you
quit
quit.
on the Constitution. I was like, oh, this isn't happening.
I'm out. Yeah. But I've only traveled overseas once, and I traveled across the country a few times, but when I went state to state and then when I went to Paris, you just can't help but see the United States as a mere baby. Like, we're just very young. We're just still figuring ourselves out. I'm not saying we need to keep humping this Constitution all the way to the end. The answer to the question, who's held us to the higher ideal, is people of color, and black folks, women, Mexicans, everybody that's protested. That's who's pushed it forward, and these guys are trying to wrench it back. And yeah, maybe there is a point at which we've got to sit down and go, we need a new set of guidelines. I don't know if we're going to get there. I think we're going to get to, maybe, in the grand scheme of things, that Trump signals the end of liberal democracy. He certainly has broken up the Axis, the Allied Forces peace treaty, or however you want to look at it. That world order that was created after World War II is donezo. We've pissed off all our allies and are thinking about invading Canada and Mexico. I don't know if you'll actually do it, but we're already starting to do incursions into Mexico, apparently, with drones. But maybe what comes after that is going to be some sort of ratification of a new constitution, or maybe we get balkanized. I forgot, in about 22 minutes, I have an interview on the radio, but we can.
Yeah, well, all right. I would just like to let's just put a pin in this constitutional crisis and determine whether or not we need a new constitutional Congress. I am not convinced that the document and its original state, with its amendments thereafter, will ever effectively represent the totality of the American citizenry. I'm not even talking about undocumented. I'm not talking about immigrants who don't have their papers. I'm talking about Americans that are citizens. This document will never fully represent those people or protect them in a government system the way it is set up. I don't think you're going to make it. And I don't think it is necessary to go down with this ship based on this original document. To your point, he said every 17 years. We're well past the fucking sell-by date.
If it was a bong, you wouldn't be able to get anything through it. It needs to be cleaned.
Even the original framers had the foresight to know that this can't last forever. In fact, 17 years to him was probably the long view. It was like, this is as long as it could possibly last.
Yeah, because people were dying pretty young at that time. So, the world that we live in, they couldn't even imagine.
and the world that they live in, to be honest, we can barely fathom.
No, these originalists, it's like you want the country to, like, where's your chamber pot? You know, do you piss inside? Or do you have to like take a bucket, you know? Like, where's your musket? Like, if you really committed to this originalism thing, how,
Yeah.
you know, do you have a powdered wig? Like, what are we doing here?
So,
It's,
yeah.
that's what I mean. To me, I would, you know, it's sort of like the Israel program to bring American Jews over to see the homeland and kind of connect to it. I'd want to send all these people on a trip around the world to visit different cultures and spend time meeting people not like them. They'd
Yeah.
appreciate their
Also,
own country more, you know,
you
and
talk
they'd
about us
appreciate,
being a. Go ahead.
you know, just they'd appreciate what they have and maybe understand what they don't have a little better.
Well, you talk about it being a baby nation. It's like we're using nursery rhymes and adhering to them like the Bible. Like,
Yeah.
can you? Like, yeah, exactly. We're a baby nation. This is the very first document we came up with about life.
Right.
Maybe we've
Yeah.
outgrown it.
That's very, very possible. I
Maybe
mean, like
it
the
is.
Second Amendment, you know, they couldn't picture what guys have at their house, you know, Gatling guns and shit, rocket launchers and drones that can blow things up. Like,
They couldn't
there's
even
no way they,
imagine porn.
no. Well, I bet you Thomas Jefferson could imagine porn, but, uh, you know,
He could imagine an orgy,
yeah,
but he couldn't
yeah.
imagine watching somebody else's from
Apparently, Ben
fucking
Franklin was quite
across
a
the
freak.
world.
Yeah, Ben Franklin was apparently quite the freak. But yeah, it's you're absolutely right, and it's but like the travel thing, I think is just like there's a guy coming up that's like, I can't stand hearing Spanish or reading Spanish in places, and you go to Europe and it's like another country is just a stone's throw away that speaks a totally different language, and everybody there speaks like three or four. And you're afraid of hearing Spanish when you're standing on land that used to be Mexico, that used to be Spain.
Okay, you're
That used to
cheating.
be,
You're cheating.
what's
You're,
that?
you're reading ahead.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm sorry. It's the
You
coffee.
makes sense.